One of Rome's most powerful legions marched into history and never marched out. No final battle report, no burial site, no official explanation. So what really happened to the Ninth Legion, and why did Rome erase its fate from memory? In this video, we were going to solve one of history's greatest military mysteries by separating myth from evidence. At the height of the Roman Empire, legions were more than armies. They were symbols of order, power, and permanence. Rome recorded everything: victories, defeats, even humiliations. Yet one legion defied this obsession with record-keeping. The Ninth Legion, once celebrated, feared, and honored, simply disappeared. No heroic last stand carved in stone. No disgrace officially acknowledged. Before it became a mystery, before its name faded into silence, the Ninth Legion was born in an age of chaos. Rome was not yet the untouchable empire we imagine today. It was a republic tearing itself apart from the inside, where ambition mattered more than loyalty and power was claimed with steel rather than speeches. This was the world into which the Ninth Legion was created. The exact year of its formation is debated, but most historians trace its origins to the violent struggles of the 1st century BCE. Rome needed soldiers, who were not just fighters, but survivors. Men who could endure endless campaigns, brutal discipline, and commanders who demanded absolute obedience. The Ninth Legion was raised for this purpose, forged not in celebration, but in necessity. From the beginning, the Legion was shaped by war. Recruits were drawn from across Italy and beyond, many of them poor, landless, and desperate for opportunity. For these men, the Legion was more than a military unit, it was a promise. Serve Rome, and you would be fed, paid, and perhaps one day rewarded with land. Fail Rome, and your name would be forgotten. Training was merciless. March stretched for miles under full armor. Discipline was enforced through fear as much as honor. Every movement, every command, every formation was drilled until instinct replaced thought. The Ninth Legion learned to fight as a single body, where individual survival depended entirely on the man standing beside you. Early campaigns hardened the Legion quickly. Civil wars erupted as Roman generals turned their armies against each other, and the Ninth found itself fighting Romans as often as foreign enemies. These wars were especially brutal because mercy was rare. Defeat meant execution, enslavement, or public humiliation. Victory meant survival and recognition. It was during these early conflicts that the Ninth Legion earned its reputation. While other units broke or hesitated, the Ninth held formation. When battles turned chaotic, they advanced. Their commanders learned they could be trusted in the most unstable situations, and that trust became the Legion's greatest asset. The Ninth was not just effective, it was reliable. In an era when loyalty shifted with politics, this Legion remained disciplined and functional. That made it valuable. Valuable legions were given difficult assignments, placed in dangerous territories, and expected to succeed where others failed. As Rome transitioned from republic to empire, the Ninth Legion transitioned with it. Emperors understood that power rested on the army, and the army rested on legions like the Ninth. They were rewarded with honors, banners, and titles that signaled prestige. Each victory added to their identity. Each campaign reinforced the idea that this legion was destined for greatness. But greatness comes with a price. The very qualities that made the Ninth Legion legendary: its endurance. Obedience and reputation also made it expendable. Rome began to rely on it too heavily, sending it where resistance was strongest and rebellion most likely. The Legion became a tool for solving Rome's hardest problems, regardless of cost. By the time the Ninth Legion reached the height of its fame, it had already been shaped by decades of bloodshed. These were not inexperienced soldiers marching into history. They were veterans, scarred and disciplined, carrying the weight of Rome's ambitions on their shoulders. And long before the world would ask how the Ninth Legion disappeared, the real question had already been answered silently by Rome itself. How far could one legion be pushed before even legend was not enough? By the time the Ninth Legion reached the frontiers of the Roman world, it was no longer just a military unit, it was a symbol. Rome did not send the Ninth to peaceful provinces or quiet borders. It sent them where order collapsed, where rebellion brewed, and where the empire's authority was openly challenged. The frontiers were where Rome tested its legions, and the Ninth Legion was tested again and again. Life on the frontier was nothing like life in Rome. There were no marble forums or cheering crowds. Instead, there were endless march through unfamiliar landscapes, harsh climates, and enemies who knew the land far better than any Roman commander. For the Ninth Legion, glory was not found in grand parades but in survival. Campaign after campaign hardened the legion's reputation. They fought in regions where supply lines were fragile and reinforcements uncertain. Every victory depended on discipline and coordination, because defeat on the frontier often meant complete annihilation. The Ninth became known for holding positions others could not, maintaining order in territories that resisted Roman rule with stubborn determination. What set the Ninth apart was not just their strength, but their adaptability. Frontier warfare demanded flexibility. Enemies refused to fight in open fields. They attacked at night, vanished into forests, and struck supply caravans instead of armies. The Ninth Legion learned quickly. They adjusted formations, improved reconnaissance, and turned Roman engineering into a weapon by building forts that dominated hostile landscapes. Each successful campaign added to their prestige. Commanders praised them in reports sent back to Rome. Shared danger and isolation. The Ninth Legion became a brotherhood that trusted itself more than any promise from Rome. Frontier success also brought increased responsibility. Whenever trouble flared in newly conquered regions, the Ninth was often among the first called upon. This repeated reliance reinforced its elite status, but it also placed the Legion in continuous danger. Other legions rotated through safer provinces, but the Ninth remained where resistance was strongest. As the empire expanded, the frontier shifted constantly. The Ninth Legion marched with it, pushing Rome's borders outward and securing new territories. Their victories were not always decisive, but they were effective enough to allow the Roman administration to take root. Roads followed their camps. Cities grew near their forts. Civilization, as Rome defined it, advanced behind their shields. Yet this constant success created an illusion. Rome began to see the Ninth Legion as unbreakable. Losses were expected, but total failure was unthinkable. That belief would shape future decisions, placing impossible expectations on a single unit. On the frontier, glory was measured in endurance rather than celebration. The Ninth Legion endured hunger, fatigue, ambush, and isolation, and each trial strengthened its legend. But legends are dangerous. They encourage risk. They invite overconfidence. And as the Ninth Legion stood guard at the edges of the known world, its reputation grew larger than the reality of the men who carried it forward. When the Ninth Legion was sent to Britannia, Rome believed it was extending civilization to the edge of the world. What it was really doing was stepping into a land that refused to be tamed. Britannia was not like Gaul or Spain, provinces that eventually bent under Roman pressure. This island fought back in ways Rome did not fully understand. From the moment Roman boots touched British soil, resistance was constant. The terrain itself became an enemy. Thick forests swallowed marching columns. Marshlands turned roads into traps. Cold rain and endless fog eroded discipline and morale. For a legion trained to dominate through order and formation, Britannia shattered every assumption about how war should be fought. The Ninth Legion arrived with confidence built on decades of frontier success. They had faced rebels before. They had crushed uprisings and enforced Roman rule across vast territories. But Britannia was different. The tribes did not fight to win battles. They fought to exhaust their enemy. They struck quickly, vanished without warning, and refused to surrender even after suffering losses. Roman commanders struggled to impose control. Intelligence was unreliable. Allies switched sides without warning. Supply lines stretched thin across hostile countryside, vulnerable to constant harassment. Every mile marched into the interior increased the danger of isolation. The Ninth Legion was often required to operate far from reinforcement, tasked with holding territory that resisted occupation. Britannia was also psychologically hostile. Roman soldiers were used to visible enemies and clear victories. Here, the enemy was invisible, nights were filled with uncertainty, forts were attacked without warning, patrols disappeared into forests and never returned. Even seasoned veterans felt the strain of fighting an enemy that refused to play by Rome's rules. Despite these challenges, the Ninth Legion pressed forward. Forts were built deeper into contested territory. Roads were carved through wilderness. Roman authority expanded, but only on the surface. Beneath it, resentment simmered. The presence of Roman troops provoked rebellion rather than submission, turning every garrison into a target. One of the greatest threats came from large-scale tribal coordination. When Britannian tribes united, even temporarily, they posed a serious danger to isolated Roman forces. These uprisings were not spontaneous. They were planned, exploiting Roman routines and weaknesses. The Ninth Legion often found itself confronting enemies who had learned from previous encounters and adapted accordingly. Rome's response was force. Villages were destroyed, leaders executed, and resistance crushed brutally. But this only deepened hostility. The cycle of rebellion and repression turned Britannia into a province permanently on the brink of collapse. Unlike other regions, peace here was never stable. It had to be enforced constantly, at enormous cost. The Ninth Legion became central to this effort. Its reputation made it both a deterrent and a target. For the tribes, defeating the Ninth would be more than a victory, it would be a symbolic blow against Roman dominance. For Rome, failure was unacceptable. The legion was expected to succeed regardless of conditions. As the years passed, Britannia consumed men and resources at an alarming rate. Casualties mounted, replacements arrived inexperienced, and veteran cohesion weakened. The Ninth Legion remained operational, but the strain was evident. This was no longer a campaign measured in victories, but a grinding struggle for survival in a land that resisted conquest at every turn. In Britannia, the Ninth Legion faced an enemy that could not be defeated through strength alone. A landscape that punished certainty and a population that refused to submit, transforming the province into the most dangerous test Rome had ever imposed on one of its most trusted legions. Rome was an empire obsessed with records. Every legion, every campaign, every triumph or disaster was carefully documented. Stone inscriptions listed units and commanders. Official histories praised victories and explained defeats. That is what makes the disappearance of the Ninth Legion so unsettling, because its story does not end with a battle or a surrender, but with silence. After years of brutal service in Britannia, references to the Ninth Legion begin to fade from Roman records. At first, the absence is subtle. A missing inscription here, a military list that no longer includes its name. Historians believe the legion was active into the early 2nd century, yet suddenly it vanishes from official documentation without explanation. There is no announcement of disbandment, no record of redeployment to another province, no account of heroic sacrifice or shameful defeat. For a legion that once held such importance, this disappearance is extraordinary. Rome did not erase legions lightly. Even units destroyed in battle were remembered, their losses recorded as lessons or warnings. The silence raises immediate questions. If the Ninth Legion had been destroyed in a conventional battle, Rome would have documented it. Public acknowledgement of loss served political and military purposes. It justified new taxes, new campaigns, and new recruitment. Silence, on the other hand, suggests something far more troubling. One possibility is that the legion suffered a catastrophic defeat so humiliating that Rome chose not to acknowledge it. A mass ambush deep in hostile territory could have wiped out the legion before news reached command. Such an event would have shattered Rome's image of invincibility, especially in a province already struggling to remain under control. Another unsettling possibility is that the loss occurred gradually rather than suddenly. Attrition through constant skirmishes, disease, and exhaustion could have reduced the legion to a shadow of its former strength. At some point, the unit may have ceased to function as a coherent force, absorbed quietly into other legions without ceremony. What makes the silence even more disturbing is the deliberate nature of Roman record-keeping. Names of other legions continue uninterrupted. Military reforms are detailed. Provincial changes are explained. Yet the Ninth Legion simply stops being mentioned, as if someone intentionally closed the book on its existence. Archaeological evidence deepens the mystery. Inscriptions bearing the Legion's name show signs of damage or removal. Some forts once associated with the Ninth appear to have been abandoned suddenly. Weapons and equipment found in northern Britain suggest violent conflict, but nothing that clearly identifies a final battle. Roman authors who wrote extensively about military affairs make no reference to the Legion's fate. This absence is not accidental. Roman historians were selective, but they were also thorough. Ignoring the disappearance of a full legion suggests an uncomfortable truth Rome preferred not to confront publicly. The political context matters. Emperors relied on the perception of control. Admitting the loss of an elite legion in a rebellious province could have encouraged further uprisings. Silence may have been a strategic choice, an attempt to prevent panic and preserve authority. For the soldiers of the Ninth Legion, this silence meant erasure. No monuments, no recorded sacrifices, no acknowledgement of their service. Their families would have received no clear explanation, only rumors and uncertainty. The sudden disappearance of the Ninth Legion is not just a historical mystery. It is a rare glimpse into the limits of imperial power, where even Rome, master of documentation and narrative, chose silence over truth, leaving behind a gap in history that still refuses to be filled when facts end. Theories begin, and the disappearance of the Ninth Legion has produced some of the most debated explanations in Roman military history. Each theory attempts to solve the same problem: how an entire legion, once central to imperial power, could vanish without a trace in an empire that documented almost everything. One of the most enduring theories suggests total annihilation in northern Britannia. According to this idea, the Ninth Legion marched deep into hostile territory and was ambushed by a coalition of tribes. Unlike earlier skirmishes, this confrontation would have been overwhelming, coordinated, and merciless. Surrounded in unfamiliar terrain, cut off from reinforcements, and attacked from all sides, the Legion may have been destroyed before it could retreat or send a message. Supporters of this theory point to archaeological signs of violent conflict and the abrupt abandonment of forts as evidence of a disaster too sudden to record. Another theory argues that the Legion was not destroyed in Britain at all, but secretly transferred elsewhere. Some historians suggest the Ninth may have been redeployed to the eastern provinces, where Rome faced persistent threats from powerful enemies. In this scenario, the Legion could have been wiped out in a distant war, far from public attention. If the loss occurred during a politically sensitive campaign, Rome may have chosen silence to avoid undermining confidence in imperial leadership. There is also the theory of gradual dissolution. Rather than a single catastrophic event, the Ninth Legion may have slowly disintegrated through years of attrition. Constant fighting, disease, and exhaustion could have reduced its numbers beyond recovery. Replacements may have been diverted to other units, while remaining soldiers were absorbed quietly into different legions. Over time, the Ninth would cease to exist as an independent entity, not through defeat but through neglect. Some historians propose deliberate erasure as the most plausible explanation. In Roman culture, failure carried enormous stigma. If the Ninth Legion had mutinied, disobeyed orders, or failed in a way that embarrassed imperial authority, its name may have been intentionally removed from official memory. This practice, known as damnatio memoria, was used to erase disgraced individuals and events from history. Applying it to an entire legion would have been extreme, but not impossible. There is also the possibility that the truth lies between these explanations. The legion may have suffered a severe defeat that weakened it beyond repair, followed by quiet disbandment and erasure. This would explain the lack of dramatic records and the fragmented archaeological evidence. Rome could acknowledge the loss internally while preventing the story from spreading publicly. Each theory reflects the same underlying reality. The disappearance of the Ninth Legion challenged Rome's self-image. Whether destroyed by enemies, worn down by relentless warfare, or erased for political reasons, the Legion's fate did not fit the narrative of eternal Roman dominance. What keeps the mystery alive is the absence of decisive evidence. No battlefield has been definitively identified. No mass grave has been confirmed. No official decree explains the legion's end. Instead, historians are left with fragments, damaged inscriptions, missing records, and silence where certainty should exist. Theories continue to evolve as new discoveries are made, but none have closed the case. The disappearance of the Ninth Legion remains unresolved not because of a lack of interest, but because Rome itself may have ensured that the truth would never be fully known, allowing speculation to replace certainty and legend to grow where history falls silent. The Ninth Legion may have vanished from Rome's records, but it never disappeared from history. In many ways, its absence made it more powerful than its presence ever was. A legion remembered only through silence forces future generations to ask questions that victories and monuments never inspire. The legacy of the Ninth Legion is not built on triumph, but on uncertainty. For the Roman Empire, the loss left a quiet scar. Even if officially unacknowledged, the disappearance of an entire legion would have influenced military planning. Commanders became more cautious about deep advances into hostile territory. Frontier strategy shifted toward containment rather than expansion. Permanent fortifications increased, and reliance on intelligence and local alliances grew. The ghost of the Ninth Legion shaped decisions without ever being named. In Britannia, the impact was profound. Roman authority continued, but with heightened awareness of vulnerability. The province was never fully trusted again. Military presence increased, not decreased, suggesting that Rome understood the danger it faced there. The construction of massive defensive systems in later years reflects lessons learned at a terrible cost, lessons likely paid for by the Ninth Legion. Beyond strategy, the Legion's legacy lives in storytelling. Roman soldiers passed down rumors and half-remembered accounts. Whispers of a legion that marched north and never returned became cautionary tales told in barracks and camps. These stories reinforced discipline and fear, reminding soldiers that even Rome's finest could be swallowed by the unknown. Centuries later, historians inherited the same uncertainty. The absence of clear evidence transformed the Ninth Legion into a symbol rather than a unit. It represents the limits of empire, the point where ambition collided with reality. Unlike other legions remembered for conquest, the Ninth is remembered for its disappearance, a rare inversion of historical memory. Modern archaeology continues to chase its shadow. Every new excavation in northern Britain raises the same hope, proof of a final battle, a forgotten camp, or a clue buried beneath centuries of soil. Each discovery adds detail but never resolution. The mystery endures because it reflects the complexity of history itself, where truth is often fragmented and incomplete. The Ninth Legion also holds cultural power. It has inspired novels, films, and debates, capturing the imagination of audiences far beyond academic circles. The idea of a disciplined, unstoppable force reduced to silence resonates deeply, challenging assumptions about strength and permanence. Empires fall, records fade, and even the most powerful institutions can leave behind unanswered questions. What makes the Ninth Legion unique is not simply that it disappeared, but that its disappearance was never explained. Rome controlled narratives with precision, yet here control failed or was deliberately abandoned. That gap reminds us that history is written not only by what is recorded, but by what is omitted. The legacy of the Ninth Legion endures because it refuses closure. It stands as a reminder that power has limits, that certainty is fragile, and that sometimes the most important stories are the ones left unfinished, echoing across centuries as unanswered questions rather than completed chapters. As we step back from the fragments of history, one truth becomes clear. The story of Rome's Ninth Legion is not just about a lost army, but about the limits of power itself. This legion was born in chaos, hardened on the frontiers, and tested in one of the most hostile provinces Rome ever attempted to control. It represented discipline, endurance, and imperial confidence at its peak. And yet, despite all of that, it vanished. The disappearance of the Ninth Legion forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality about empires. No matter how advanced their systems, how vast their resources, or how carefully they control their narratives, there are moments they cannot fully explain or erase. Rome could conquer lands and rewrite histories, but it could not completely bury the mystery of an entire legion lost to time. Whether the Ninth was annihilated in the wilds of Britannia, worn down by years of relentless conflict, or deliberately erased to protect Rome's image. Its fate reminds us that history is not always neat or complete. Silence can be just as revealing as written records. In that silence, we hear the echo of soldiers who marched under Rome's banners, believing in the promise of glory, only to become ghosts in the empire they served. Today, the Ninth Legion stands as a symbol rather than a certainty. It symbolizes ambition pushed too far, confidence tested by reality, and the fragile line between legend and loss. Its unanswered questions continue to challenge historians and captivate audiences, proving that mystery can sometimes outlast monuments. From glory to ghosts, the Ninth Legion did not simply disappear from the battlefield. It disappeared into history itself, leaving behind a reminder that even the greatest empires cannot fully control how they are remembered.